And once again, we are back again with G5 rankings. Look, week 5 went away fast. Look, the weeks are going by faster and faster. This has kind of a slow weekend for Group of 5. No big changes in the rankings. I'll look at that in a minute. But look, we got some interesting matchups this week, and we'll get the games of the week later on this week, and we'll release my schedule for that and everything. But look, I want to talk about week 5, what happened, what I thought, who I saw improved, and we'll get to the changes just here in just a second here on the Crowded Booth.
Pile in here and make yourself feel at home. The Crowded Booth is coming on. The Crowded Booth with Bryce Coon.
Hey everyone, it's Ralph Leary. Ralph G5 Leary. I want to thank you for watching, obviously. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being a part of the Group of 5 schedule for us this year. It's been it's been a lot of fun. It's been interesting this year, obviously, and I go back to what Gavin said, college football is going to be crazy all year long. And I agree. We're gonna see some Group of 5 teams upset some Power 4 teams this year. I think I said at the beginning of the year. You're going to see some Group of 5 teams, play each other to the wire. And, we're getting closer to conference play. Actually, I guess we're stepping into conference play this week for all these conferences and these Group of 5 conferences. And he's still got some intriguing matchups across the board. We'll get right into the rankings, though, and what I have changed and everything. First off, you don't see a lot of changes at first. Memphis still at 1, Tulane at 2, South Florida 3, Navy at 4, North Texas at 5, UNLV at 6, Boise State at 7, James Madison 8, Louisiana Tech comes in at 9 this week. Look, not shocking. I'll explain to you in a minute why it's not shocking. Old Dominion stays at 10. Look, I said it's been a crazy year for Group of 5. It starts off with how La Tech's been and how they kind of go under the radar and how good they've been this year. Look, La Tech's about to join the Sun Belt next year. There's no news that's been announced. What else? What other way to go out with having a big season this year in the Conference USA, win the conference? Make some people think about you, because right now your only loss is to LSU on the road, and that was 23-7. Bryce was there. He texted me throughout the game. It was ugly. Now, do I think La Tech could beat LSU? Absolutely not. They don't have the skill players to match up both sides of the ball. But look, we'll get into it real quick why I think La Tech's good. Their defense is amazing. It's really kind of unbelievable because, you lose 23-7 to LSU, but you kind of go out there and you play everybody like to the wire. And I'm enjoying watching it. I watched a little bit over the weekend. I kind of watched a recap, a college football recap over the weekend, and I really like what I see defensively from this team and what they produce. They played UTEP over the weekend at UTEP. Traveling is always hard. Remember where you're playing at, but you go and you shut them out for 11 points at their home stadium, and in a conference that's not really known for having good defenses. I'll get here to the team has 10 sacks altogether. And this is where we get to the crazy part. They have 11 interceptions, 3 pick sixes, 5 forced fumbles, and 2 have been recovered. That's a solid defense in Group of 5 football. That's a defense that's going to make some teams, challenge. Unless they have look, they would make, them playing Memphis and the USS and the Tulanes. It's kind of the American Conference in general. Those top teams up there, it would impose an intriguing matchup. I'd like to watch those teams play against each other because obviously La Tech's doing something right, and it starts, we talk about defense real quick, and I'll get to some of the guys who've kind of impressed me so far this year. Jakari Foster, he's been a great corner from this year. This team's just, they're built, really well together. I think that, they've brought in a pretty solid roster. Blake Baker, the starting quarterback, over 600 yards passing this year, 3 touchdowns. Running back Clay, I will butcher his name, and I feel so bad. It's Clay Thavianen, I think how you say it. 230 yards on the ground so far, averaging about 5 yards a carry, close to it. Solid. You can't ask for anything better right now out of your running back that averages almost 5 yards a carry. A lot of schools would ask for that. You know, going forward, La Tech's got a pretty easy way. You know, you have Kennesaw State next week. You're on bye this week. You got at Kennesaw State next week, and you got Western Kentucky at home, Sam Houston State at home. You go to Delaware, Washington State back to back, Liberty at home, and at Missouri State. So you kind of got to travel a little bit, but they're winnable games for you. And so you're talking about a team that has a one loss going into the end of the year, with a loss to LSU. Now, their non-conference games don't really help them out, for a playoff bid, but to get a solid bowl game, a team that kind of gets overlooked because, you have two Sunbelt teams in Louisiana. You have LSU obviously there, and then you got Tulane and New Orleans. It's just kind of there's a lot of schools down there, and you kind of overlook La Tech sometimes. So shout out to what they're doing down there, doing great. They're gonna keep moving up in this rankings, in my opinion. So just be on the lookout. Now, nothing else changed this week, in my opinion. Navy has a kind of struggling win against Rice. Rice is not a bad team. Rice is still a really good team, in my opinion. North Texas handled business. They played a South Alabama team that's just taking lumps this year, man. They're taking some shots. They, almost pulled up the upset over Tulane, gave Auburn a fight to the end, and just kind of slept over Coastal Carolina that beat them. I think that Mesta Maker is one of the best quarterbacks in the group of five right now. Obviously, passing wise, he's been elite for them. They finally have a running back that kind of stepped into that number one role. It's Caleb Hawkins. He's had a terrific matchup. Out of the backfield, running the ball, receiving the ball. He's been terrific for them. I like North Texas. They're undefeated right now. And they're going to get better. I mean, this is one of those teams that just keeps getting better win by win. We'll go to Memphis real quick. Memphis really, coming off the win against Arkansas last week, you expect some kind of drop off. You're thinking, oh man, they're going to struggle probably this week. Can they keep up what they did? It's one of those kind of things where, like, you got so high from that win, you kind of forget where you're at, who you're playing. And you go on the road to Florida Atlantic with a new head coach and a team that's it's going to get better eventually. I believe in Zach Kitley down there and what he's done and what he's continued to do down there. But it's going to take some time. But that's one thing Ryan Silverfield has established in this team is they don't sleep. They don't sleep on other teams they play. They play everyone to the brim, and they took Florida Atlantic to the woodshed. A 55-26 blowout on the road. You can't ask for anything more. Brendan Lewis has been a terrific running back for them, man. Quarterback. My apologies. 4 total touchdowns, 2 running, 2 passing. You can't ask for a quarterback doing more than that. They ran down their throats the entire game. Almost 300 yards rushing as a team. Greg, I will also butcher this guy's name too. Greg Desroyas Jr. ran for 204 yards and 2 touchdowns himself. Look, there's no question of who they're looking forward to. Memphis has to play South Florida and Tulane this year. They are not sleeping. They're not looking ahead because this is a team that it's week by week, but you can tell they're leaning toward that South Florida matchup in a few weeks. And I agree. In a few more weeks after that, you got Tulane at home, and you upset them last year. They're looking for revenge. So it's the team that's going to take every game seriously, every team seriously, and will continue to be a problem for a lot of Power 4 schools going forward. And look, I'll get to another thing in a minute about what's going on in college football and coaching staffs, but Memphis has got one of the best coaching staffs in Group of 5, and I stand behind that because I like Ryan Silverfield. I got a friend there who coaches with him. This is a solid team all around. Tulane, I talked about it a second ago. Tulane's a team that I fully behind. I'm a John Summerall fan. Have been since he was at Troy, and before he left to go into went to get Ole Miss and Kentucky. I liked him when he was at Troy his first time with Neil Brown. So I kind of understand this guy and his coaching, philosophy is that he is a hard worker. He wants the guys that are going to show up and play their best. That's what he wants to go out there. He's not going to put the guys out there who make the most money on NIL. He don't care about that. He wants 11 guys on offense, 11 guys in defense who are going to play the absolute hardest they can play. And Jake Retzlaff has been that guy for them this year. One of the most dynamic runners for a quarterback in the country. Didn't have a terrific running performance this week, but guess what? He still could beat you through the air. You play a Tulsa team that coming off a huge upset win over Oklahoma State. You gotta watch those games because those teams can really, scare you a little bit. But first half you go up 24-14, and then they score late again. And just finish off in the second half. Didn't allow a touchdown in the second half. Win at 31-14. Get it out of there with a solid win, and you move on because that's what Tulane is. They're moving on. Bye week this week. Host East Carolina next weekend. Next Thursday. I'll be there in attendance. Shout out to our friend in the program, Dr. Bob, for hooking us up some tickets. I'm excited to be there. I've always wanted to see Yeoman Stadium down there and just see Summerall coach again in person. I love watching this guy coach. And that's just where I'm kind of getting to this point here. Sam Pittman being fired yesterday kind of opens up a lot of questions for who takes that spot. And Arkansas is going to have to answer the question, do you want a quick turnaround, go get the big name coach that will bring in some guys from his school now that will give you a winning program in 2 years or 1 to 2 years? Or do you want the guy that's going to build you for a future and establish a normal winning team year in, year out? And you got to find out who that's going to be. I have some G5 coaches who are in the waiting for a power forward job that would probably be the best option for them. I just mentioned John Summerall. There's no doubt about this guy is on the verge of an SEC job. I think that everyone kind of agrees with that. Lane Kiffin said it even the few days prior to their game last week where they blew him out, but still, he respects him. He knows he's a good coach, and he will never say he's not. He fully respects John Summerall. You see it in how he treats him and, how he talks about him. Ryan Silverfield has done great at Memphis. He wins there. There's a lot of people question that Memphis should be in a higher conference. I think they could compete in some of these higher conferences. He's on the verge of an SEC, ACC job. There's no doubt about that. And I throw some names out there. Jeff Traylor, who's been at UTSA for quite a while now. I always joke that when Mike Gundy got fired, he would be the number one call. Mike Gundy's been fired, but I think they've kind of leaned away from Traylor. I think he's waited too long for an opening, and that's what's going to hurt him. And then G.J. Kinney, Texas State's head coach. He's been there for a few years now, kind of a guy that, been waiting for the right opportunity to get the higher job. I kind of thought he would take an offense coordinator job, or just a coordinator job in general before he kind of stepped into the role of a head coach in Power Forward. But, if Rhett Lashley doesn't answer the phone or turns the job down, Gus doesn't come to Arkansas, you got to start asking questions. Who can we go get out of the group of 5 schools that will help us win in the future? And, I kind of give you that list, that short list. There's obviously a lot more coaches out there, but these are the kind of the top names going around. There's Dan Mullen too. I should mention Dan Mullen, UNLV. Obviously, first year back coaching. He's got this team pretty well strung up, and they're only getting better. And I think they're a fun team to watch. Dan Mullen obviously, got Mississippi State to a winning program, took the Florida job, was winning there, just made some people mad, for some reason, and they fired him. Dan Mullen deserved better. Obviously, you saw that how he kind of reacted when he just said he stepped away from coaching for a while. So it'll be interesting to see where these schools go and who they kind of take over, who takes over these programs. And especially when those programs, if let's say Tulane loses John Summerall, who are they going to go get? I would say Summerall is going to bring his coordinators with him, his coaching staff with him. Same with Ryan Silverfield, and especially other guys. These guys have been, in group of five, these guys kind of stick around with each other, work with each other for a while, and, you know, establish kind of like a family atmosphere. So I would not be surprised if, you know, you see a whole new coaching staff at one of these group of five schools if the coach decides to leave. So, but look, that's been the week 6 rankings right here. Obviously, we got a full week of content coming out this week. We got some bye weeks this week for some teams in the area. Um, but you know what? Group of five football is going to be electric every week. You got matchups that go from Wednesday to Saturday, and in a few weeks we'll get action on Tuesday night. So we'll be excited to watch those games, no matter who you are. A nice, snowy, rainy game on a Tuesday night with about 125 fans, you can't beat it. And look, you're only going to find these reactions at the crowded booth. So look, join the Discord, subscribe, like the content, read up on our articles, man. We work hard on this stuff, and we appreciate everyone who shows up to our live shows, watches the shows, gives positive feedback. We listen to all the feedback. No matter what you say, we're gonna read it, and we're gonna build off of it no matter what. So look, I'm Ralph Leary. This has been our week 6 group of 5 rankings, and this is the Crowded Booth.
Pile in here and make yourself feel at home. The Crowded Booth is coming on. The Crowded Booth.